Overnight, global markets and geopolitics are being pulled in opposite directions by a fresh burst of tech optimism and a renewed energy security shock. On the technological revolution and artificial intelligence, the Financial Times reports Wall Street is bracing for a wave of fast entry listings, with SpaceX, OpenAI and Anthropic flagged as potential IPO catalysts. The expectation is that major index providers and passive funds would need to reshuffle quickly, potentially forcing large-scale selling of existing holdings to make room for new mega-cap tech names. The FT also reports Goldman Sachs has overtaken Morgan Stanley's Michael Grimes in influence around a potential SpaceX float, underscoring how competitive and politically entangled the next phase of U.S. tech finance has become. Separately, the FT highlights Elon Musk's sprawling planetary vision, signaling continued convergence between rockets, AI and industrial-scale infrastructure. On global conflict and the global economy, attention is fixed on the Strait of Hormuz. The BBC and ABC report Iran is escalating its claim to control the waterway, including publishing a map asserting armed forces oversight and, according to ABC, introducing a more intrusive transit regime involving screening, approvals and even reports of Bitcoin-backed insurance requirements. Any sustained disruption or perceived risk premium here would feed directly into global energy prices, shipping costs and inflation expectations. In the Middle East, the BBC reports Gaza flotilla activists have been deported from Israel as backlash grows over their treatment, after widely condemned footage showed a far-right Israeli minister taunting detained activists. The conversation argues that taunting and degrading civilians in armed conflict is a clear violation of international law, adding to international scrutiny of conduct and accountability. Turning to Australia, politics is being shaped by budget fallout and questions about economic credibility. ABC and The Conversation report one nation is surfing a wave of post-budget backlash, amplified by social media, while Labour defends its position amid criticism over broken promises. In a related economic policy development, ABC reports the Productivity Commission was not asked to model the productivity impact of proposed capital gains tax changes. Business groups are now pressing Treasurer Jim Chalmers to explain how the government concluded the changes would lift productivity without that modeling. The Sydney Morning Herald reports Labour is open to changes on the so-called death tax debate, but not on CGT, signalling limited room to move on the core tax settings. On the Australian public service and governance of major projects, ABC reports Snowy Hydro executives received $1.2 million in bonuses as Snowy 2.0 costs continue to spiral. The chief executive, Dennis Barnes, received $323,000 in bonus pay on top of a $1.69 million salary, with 4 other senior executives receiving about $919,000 in variable pay. The story is likely to intensify scrutiny of remuneration, accountability and delivery on nationally significant infrastructure. On climate and diplomacy, SBS reports Australia has endorsed a historic UN resolution supporting an advisory opinion on climate change accountability, a notable move given Australia's status as a major coal and gas exporter. Locally and around the states, SBS reports the Bureau of Meteorology says parts of Australia have seen record rainfall, but the drenching is not expected to last, with renewed attention on what winter could bring and whether El Niño risks re-emerge. SBS also reports a neo-Nazi group has lodged a legal challenge against its hate group listing, and that debate continues over whether Australia needs a royal commission into femicide following an alleged domestic violence triple murder. That's the latest on the material developments to start the day.